Well, I think Bangladesh started off as a negative role model in that we were one of the most vulnerable countries to the impacts of climate change. But that's an old story. We knew that more than 10 years ago. In the meantime, we have not been idle. We have been trying to do something about it. And I think that we are emerging now as a positive role model on how to tackle the impacts of climate change.
How can this be?
Because we are facing the problems and we are finding solutions to those problems as we speak right now. The rest of the world will have to do it tomorrow. We are doing it today. They can learn from us. There are two ways in which we can tackle the problem of climate change. The first one is to think in terms of physical layout, infrastructure, build highways, bridges, embankments, protect people from floods and droughts and cyclones. And the second way, which I think is actually a better investment, is invest in the people. Make the people more resilient, make the people understand problems, make the people find solutions to the problems themselves. And once they do that, then the number of solutions are endless. Now, people on their own at the community level can't do everything. There are certain things that higher decision makers with much greater amounts of money are going to have to do. But they should be informed by people at the bottom. People need to be telling the decision makers what they want and how to do it. And by empowering people and by particularly empowering young people, I think that's where the future solutions to the problem of climate change will come from.
And you especially focus on women.
And I especially focus on girls because I think investing in girls' education and empowerment has a orders of magnitude better return for society as a whole than boys. Boys take the empowerment and they use it for themselves. They get good jobs, they make money, they spend it on themselves. Girls, if they get empowered, they get money, they spend it on their children, they spend it on their family, and last of all, they spend a little bit on themselves, but not much. And that's much better for society.
Mm-hmm.
There are two ways to tell the story of Bangladesh. One is to just focus on the problems, and if you do that, it does seem unsurmountable. However, if you focus on the potential for solutions, and I see the potential for solutions amongst our people and amongst our younger generation and amongst our girls rather than our boys, then the endless potential. We can show the rest of the world not only how to tackle climate change in Bangladesh, but how to tackle climate change in Switzerland, in America, in Canada. The solutions will come from here for the problems that you will face tomorrow.
So what can we learn, Switzerland, from Bangladesh?
Learn to think differently. Think about problems in an innovative way. Don't think about things in the old way. Don't accept old paradigms, for example, that you have to depend on fossil fuels forever. You don't. You can jump to 100% renewable. You can leapfrog with technologies and with know-how. We can do it, you can do it, we can all do it. I think Bangladesh has one of the biggest advantages in that our people are inherently resilient and adaptive. And we have adapted for many, many centuries to many kinds of calamities and problems. And we are used to doing that. And that, to a large extent, allows us to be confident in the face of a bigger problem like a global problem like climate change, which many rich countries and rich people don't have. Rich people are often much more vulnerable because they're used to everything functioning well. And when things don't function well, they are unable to cope with it. With us, we can cope with almost anything. So in Bangladesh, one of the biggest problems we are going to face in future, we're beginning to face now in a small way, but it's going to get much bigger in future, is the low-lying coastal area becoming more and more saline. We are trying to deal with it now, but over time, people are going to lose their livelihoods. Mm-hmm. They simply will not be able to continue to farm and fish there anymore. And so they will have to move. And they will add to the current ongoing rural to urban migration. Now in Bangladesh, most of that comes to Dhaka city. Dhaka is the fastest growing megacity in the world. It won't be able to absorb another 10 million migrants, climate migrants. So we need to think out of the box. We need to ensure that these potential future 10 million climate migrants don't end up in Dhaka. So what we are thinking about doing and trying to put in place is a set of 10 to 15 secondary towns that can take 500,000 to 1 million people each and make them into what we call climate resilient but also migrant friendly towns. Mm-hmm. The climate resilient part is simple, it's understood, we know what to do, build infrastructure. The migrant friendly is more difficult. It's more psychology. It's making people understand that migrants
local people have to accept newcomers.
Precisely. And this is a global problem everywhere. Migrants are seen as bad people. They're seen as unwanted. You have to change the ideas of the local citizens to see migrants as potential citizens of their own towns and cities, and then how do you make that happen? And we are thinking of ways in which we can make that happen.
You think Mongla can be such an example?
I think we already have a few towns, like Mongla is a very good example of a mayor who is taking this very seriously and is investing his efforts and the investments that he has from the government side into making his town into a more migrant-friendly town. We have identified a number of other mayors who are also quite willing to take this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy sell. Not everybody accepts the premise, but a few have, and we hope that they will become our champions and they will show us the way.
Let's suppose we survive the next 20 years, you and me.
Mm-hmm.
We make an interview. Where are we going to be? How will it be?
20 years from now it's a big challenge to think that far forward, but I am always optimistic. I think we will be in a better world. My country, Bangladesh, will be much, much better off. I see, again, by better off, I use the indicator of human development. Our people will be well off physically and economically, but most importantly, a socially cohesive, well-organized, happy society, not an unhappy one.
And you will have you will have found a way to cope with the challenges like cyclones, like all this what we are imagining now.
Absolutely, I'm very, very confident we can do that. I'll just give you one metric. We have suffered cyclones in Bangladesh for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 50 years, we've had major cyclones that have caused deaths in the orders of several 100,000. Nowadays, in the last 10 years, we've had similar size magnitude cyclones, but the deaths have come down to a few thousand each. And all of those are fishermen who are out at sea who didn't get the warnings in time and come back. More than 2 million people on land are given warnings, go to shelters. There are shelters for them. They stay there for a while, and then when the cyclone goes, they can go back to work. So the death rate in Bangladesh has come down to practically zero for people on land from cyclones. No other country is anywhere near us. Only Cuba has the ability to move that kind of numbers of people. No other country, no developed country. When Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, more than 1,000 Americans died. They saw the hurricane coming, but they couldn't do anything about it. They died.
Once again,
Bangladeshis don't die anymore.
Once again, Bangladesh as a role model for the world.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.